and welcome to today's remote session. This is Tom Bechtold from Secureworld Digital. Today we're going to be talking about Beyond Boundaries, securing data in the era of GenAI with DDR. Now I want to say thank you to everybody for joining us. We've got a lot of ground to cover. We've got a couple of experts that I'm going to introduce. We're going to see some stuff in action. We're going to hear some use cases today. There's a lot of stuff happening. So I want to get into our topic as soon as possible, but I want to say thank you to the folks over at Votiro for making today's remote session possible, and again, for sharing their experts with us. So we've got some different resources that I've got loaded in the widget bar down there at the bottom for you guys. We've got today's slides, a couple different research things in there. There's a wonderful data security gap analysis thing that you're going to want to check out. I don't want to spoil that, but there's something cool there that you're going to want to check out. We're taking questions, either typed out or live. I'm going to probably do the most of the verbal questions, but the guys will type out some answers as well as we can as we get to those. So try to if you can, try to stump them with something, right? I mean, let's learn something today, right? So throw something out there. We're going to do the certificate of attendance after about 45 minutes. That's a little pop-up window. Again, most of you have probably been on here before, but if you're new, this is something that's going to pop up for you. We also send you a nice email about an hour or so after the program concludes that you can use for proof of attendance. We've also got the slide deck you can use too. I know some certifying bodies like you having that. So if you do have any audio or video issues, F5 or function F5, that should fix most of the problems. If you're using one of the mainstream browsers, Edge, Chrome, Firefox, that stuff's pretty solid, should work for you. But if the problem persists, we record these. They stay on the website for about 6 months. You might want to come back. Sometimes folks don't take notes. You forgot to download something, that PDF I was talking about, the data security gap. Grab that. Anyway, you can come back for the next 6 months. More importantly, if you find a colleague that's struggling with this stuff, you can share this. Share that link that you used today to join. They can come back and do the same thing, and they'll get a CPE credit. So you're making friends already and making them happy. So anyway, I'm being silly now, but let's get into the topic. We're talking about generative AI, and this stuff, it blew into the scene about a year ago. Everyone started using it like crazy. Everyone's like, yes, I'm more efficient. I'm doing stuff I never could do before, and I'm one of them. I use it for the AI stuff for images all the time. I help craft questions. Some of the abstracts that I do for the virtual conferences come from that too. But you can also feed it too much information, apparently, as we've seen in the news and things like that. So we want to uncover some of these threats, because this is truly data in motion. And this is one of the more, I would say, risky types of data there are, right? Because if you have it in the vault, you kind of have that encryption. You've got control over it. You maybe got some access control things in there. You're using zero trust, MFA, all of the acronyms that we love, right? So that's great. But when it's moving around, you lose control. So we're going to talk about that today, how you can keep your arms around that stuff. So I can't do this topic justice. So that's why we have our folks from Votiro joining us. So who do I have? We're actually pretty lucky. We got Aviv Grafi. He is the CTO and founder. He's going to give us actually, while I'm talking, Aviv, welcome first off. His bio is in the widget. You guys can actually read his bio of how everything he's done. But I wanted to ask him real quick. You're a busy guy. You're a tech guy. You're a CTO. Yet you had the time to found a company. If you wouldn't mind, just 10,000 foot view level, how did that come to you? And you're just like, I'm doing a company now.
Yeah, sure. So first, thank you very much for hosting us today in this webinar. So working mainly in the audit services. In terms of my background, I'm kind of a white hat hacker and a very curious programmer. So when I started doing those audits, I always saw that a lot of companies, a lot of my clients, they're struggling with how to adopt new security solutions without losing productivity. And that was mainly around security controls, where we have a lot of systems that actually block some stuff. We want to introduce some new cool things. You mentioned the GenAI, and then coming the security folks say, oh, that might be a problem. So before I founded Votiro, I thought, yeah, there must be a solution for all those things. And Votiro, in my view, in my vision, it's actually the company that helps to enable all those business initiatives without reducing without impacting productivity. And this is one of the things that we're going to talk about today.
I love it. I love it. Anytime you can do more with less and it really works, I love that. So appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you for unpacking that. Ravi, CEO, you were chosen to guide this company into the future of AI. And that's kind of, frankly, I think it's kind of a scary thing, but yet at the same time, it's kind of fun and there's a great opportunity here. So if you wouldn't mind, kind of give us your a quick vision of what you think is happening there, and then we'll get into the presentation.
Great, thank you, Tom. Great to see all of you in the audience as well. Yeah, so I've been fortunate to partner with Aviv to build out that vision that he laid out at the start, from an opportunity to offer solution approaches that can safeguard the use of data anywhere it's used. I mean, think of how powerful that is, right? I mean, security has always been the office of no, and now a lot of the security leaders are starting to say yes, but, and then now how can we help those same organizations move to a posture of, hey, I can actually say yes, and I'm going to be able to safeguard the use of data anywhere it's used in the enterprise. That's a really exciting opportunity for us as a company and as one of the members of solution providers in the market ecosystem as well.
Excellent. Well, I'm happy to have both of you on the program today. Let me get you to the beginning of your presentation. I'm going to, if you guys don't mind, along the way, I'm going to interject a few questions just here and there. And then as I understand it, we're going to see a cool demo of your stuff in action a little bit later on. So I'll let you guys take it over from here.
Great. Thank you, Tom. So Aviv and I are going to have this conversation on what we see as the changing and evolving landscape of cyber, especially as organizations are wanting to be able to use all the data wherever it is in the enterprise. Just take a look at this picture as a snapshot. Look at all the touch points that a user or applications or services have to work with all of this data. And just as you look at all of these touch points as opportunities for the good guys to work with the data, it's opportunities for the bad actors to mess with the data. And that's certainly what we've seen time and time again. When we hear the first trend is data breaches are at an all-time high. We're starting to hear about bad actors using AI to automate. The methods by which they are still compromising has not changed. Still, phishing seems to be number one year after year, which means they're getting more sophisticated, they're getting more automated in the ability to get to those users and get those users to click on attachments that seem pretty legitimate. So clearly, organizations have a lot of security, and yet breaches are at an all-time high. That points us back to all these touch points on this picture. 80% of the enterprises today, as we saw in a recent report from IBM's cost of data breaches, it talks about more and more data is shifting to the cloud, and more data is being used and consumed for generative AI projects. So the true trends 2 and 3, kind of dovetail with each other. And what we've found was, as organizations, as we speak to security leaders, engineering leaders around the globe, we're hearing the same thing over and over again. The same sort of adoption pattern that we saw about a decade ago with cloud, we're seeing the same thing with AI. The development team starts off on a project saying, hey, this would be a cool initiative to go kick off and go train a large language model with our own data. Or you see a development team that says, hey, I've got this new business service that I launched a couple of years ago that could benefit from generative AI. I'm going to start to experiment. And the experiment almost always starts with, let me put some data into the cloud storage. Let me put some data into the popular cloud storage and use it to train my models. And so clearly we're at this intersection point of bad actors being able to watch all that interaction that's happening, whether the users are touching content, applications are ingesting content, and services are being used with the business data that needs to be used in the marketplace. So for me, we're at that inflection point in the market where organizations have to really take a hard look at how to implement real-time data protection, real-time at the time that the user is interacting with the data, at the time that the application is receiving data from outside. How do you get organizations to be able to safeguard that data, not block it, not quarantine it, but actually safeguard and use that data safely and in a compliant manner? Let me take a few minutes to unpack this. And a lot of us in cybersecurity are guilty of this, right? We sort of form our opinions and solution approaches based on our expertise. If I'm a threat guy, I build out threat technology, I geek out, I build out more generative AI-based capabilities, and we talk about threat intelligence, we put wrappers around it and put managed services. On the other hand, if I come from the approach of risk, I focus it more on compliance and helping organizations in a compliant way get access to the data, get access to the information that they need to run the business. And I think we as in the cybersecurity have done a huge disservice thinking of the problem as in silos. When it comes to data, we're talking about two sides of the same coin. On the left side, you have the bad actors going after the data. On the right side, you have good actors who want to be able to use the data safely. Now, if I were you, I would want to start to question the approaches, solution approaches that are in the market, saying, why are we taking a siloed approach to security, securing that data, siloed approach to safeguarding the data? What I submit to all of you is that we're talking about two primary risks that are essentially two sides of the same coin. If you take a data-centric approach and put the data in the middle of the conversation, what is the content that I need the user to get access to? What is the content that I need applications to be able to safely bring into their applications? And you look at them from both perspectives. Can the bad actor weaponize it? If you ask that question on the left side, you can put controls in place to be able to ensure that the bad actors aren't able to compromise it. On the right side, can the good actors get access to it and use that data in a compliant manner? And we believe in today's technologies, we are able to address both these challenges using a unified capability. Bad actors will continue to do what they do.
So I want to ask a question. What, as you see in the market, as we get our information from our clients, what do we see there are options today? Before talking about unified approach, what are they doing today when they're having those two approaches, those two problems?
Great question, Aviv. If you look at the approach on the left, right, in order to be able to focus on threats, you see organizations putting together, consuming a lot of threat intelligence, consuming a lot of sandboxing capabilities, consuming ability to, as part of their platforms, blocking content whenever it looks suspicious. That introduces friction, certainly, in the organization, but that's certainly an approach to be able to say, hey, bad actors, if they come in weaponized with the content, I'm going to block it, quarantine it. That's the approach that you see on the left. And some of the graduated approaches are offer it as a managed service, so outsource the whole problem to a service provider. That's on the left. On the right, organizations have taken a very siloed approach again on how to meet compliance in a risk-based approach, where you see organizations implementing data loss prevention or implementing posture management as an ability to get visibility into the problem. So you take a siloed approach. On the right side, when you take the approach of data loss prevention and data access governance, as well as data activity monitoring, they're often blind to the types of threats that are targeted the content in the first place. And so what happens is it's in this gap that is in the marketplace that the bad actors have been able to exploit it. I mean, case in point, just recently we heard one of the largest telecommunication or company in the world publishing a breach that happened last year on their beautiful Snowflake system. If you look at that case study, what happens is it's not that that big, large telecommunication company didn't have security. They probably had 80 tools from 30 different vendors, all implementing these siloed capabilities. Threat intelligence on one hand, data loss prevention on the other, and yet that Snowflake data management platform was breached. So if I pause and sort of bridge from the problem statement where we are today, right, is how to help organizations take a more unified approach architecturally first, and then in a solution approach. I'm going to turn it over to you, Aviv, because you're in the forefront of looking at, can data detection and response be a solution approach for combining threat and compliant capabilities in a single platform? So can you take it and highlight to us what you see is the solution approach for data detection and response?
Yes, of course. So when we look at the problem as you outlined that, Ravi, we know that files are coming from multiple sources. So the approach should be unified and be focusing on the data, not necessarily on the source, not necessarily on the user, but actually to have the focus on the data. We know that in the zero trust principles, we've been looking at the network or the identity. But when we analyzed the problem, we understood that we need to focus on something else, which is actually the crown jewels, which is the data, where we see that organizations are still struggling with how they get the data into the organization and actually using that in a functional way, in a safe way, with any sensitive data that should be protected in it. So the way that we look at the solution, one of the approaches, it's called DDR, it's the data detection and response. And we know that files coming in from multiple sources, and we know that organizations are relying on multiple file types. It can be Office files, PDFs, archives. It can be coming from SharePoint, OneDrive, email, web downloads, but even Box, Slack, and custom portals that clients are uploading data into. So we know that files are coming in. Now, one of the things that we know that we should be doing from start is the first to identify what that data actually contains. And by saying contains, it's by actually analyzing the actual structure of the file, breaking that to the basic elements, and see and make sure that actually they contain non-harmful parts. Talk about it in a second. As we're doing that, we also need to say, okay, this is a private data that we need to process according to the policy. We all know that a lot of compliance and legislation actually getting updated every year in various places in the world, and this is extremely important for a lot of customers to stay compliant and making sure that any potentially sensitive data like health records, whether it's private information, PCI data, actually to detect it and then act on it. As part of that detection of that non-harmful parts in the private data, we're doing a reconstruction of the data into actually a valid output, a valid, safe artifact, which looks and feels exactly the same. And of course, we act on any private data based on the organizational policy. If that's, for example, labeling it, accordingly, or even redacting or masking it. And of course, deliver those files, that content to the user in a second, because we know that the most important thing for the business is to allow the employees to work, to allow them to open the content without this to be quarantined, without this to be stay somewhere and waiting for someone's review or response. So these are the principles of what we see as the unified approach for those two problems of how to deliver safe file with sensitive data that is protected, and also at the same time without impacting business. Kind of the outline of that solution. And of course, I wanna visit on the two principles that, as I see, actually for DDR. So I will jump to the next slide. So the backbone of DDR, it's a document or file sanitization. And as I've mentioned, zero trust principle that when we apply those to documents, we understand that we need to make sure that only valid and safe, non-harmful parts are being delivered to the user. And Ravi, you mentioned all the existing solutions like the antivirus and sandboxing and some of the email gateways that they're all relying on one thing, right? Detecting the bad stuff. Introduce CDR or content disarmament reconstruction into DDR. We deliver safe content by taking only the known good file elements to a clean template. And in fact, this actually eliminates the bad guys, when you always mentioned that, eliminate their capability of generating those new malware pieces quickly. It's eliminate their capability because we deliver only the known good stuff, and anything that may be unknown or potentially suspicious just being left outside. So only clean files from malware being actually delivered into the storage. It can be OneDrive, SharePoint, email, or any other method of carrying those documentation.
I've got a quick question for you, Aviv, if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure.
I see on the slide, you're mentioning it guarantees protection against new AI-created malware variants, but does the DDR itself, is it using AI or machine learning in its technology to kind of thwart that? How does that work?
So that's a great question. So there are two parts of DDR. One is a deterministic approach of taking only the known good files element into that clean template. This is a deterministic approach. But on top of that, there is a layer of GenAI and machine learning approach in order to detect threats and actually making sure that, for example, Office document will be delivered in a safe way. And the way we do that is that we know to distinguish between known macro code and malicious macro code. Because the way that we train our system, it's not just how to say, yes, this is a malicious one, but we also train the model to be familiar with a benign macro code, which is extremely important. And that's the approach, saying this is safe and we want to deliver safe content. So we actually leverage the AI and machine learning in order to enhance our protection. And in that way, we can be actually faster than the bad guys. But that's a great question.
Okay, Dad, thank you.
Yeah. So as I mentioned, there is one portion of the file sanitization. That's one pillar. The second pillar is what Ravi has mentioned, is about actually masking or doing something with that proprietary or that sensitive information. So by applying a zero trust principles and applying those from CDR world to the DDR world, we can actually help organizations to act when they find something that is related to the compliance and legislation that they need to adhere. So, for example, one of the things that we do as part of taking those documents, know how to detect those PII, PCI, or PHI in motion or at rest. Okay, not just those who landed on the OneDrive and maybe doing that offline. We know how to do that in motion before they hit the network, before they hit the storage. on it. It's not just we say, hey, there is a sensitive information here, go figure out what to do with it. Maybe you need to encrypt or something. No, we can actually act on it by, for example, redacting or masking it. So in that way, we can be compliant all time, because we don't need to wait for something to happen. We don't need to wait for someone to process that. We're actually compliant, and our file repositories are safe, and of course, we comply with all those regulations, as you see here. Very important as we see more and more customers, and not just in one vertical. We see that in, of course, in the health industry, but and also in almost any customer that need to work with the European customers need to comply with those regulations. So it's extremely important to make sure that there's no customer information that leaks and stays somewhere without us knowing it. And actually, we help our customers to make sure that they're compliant and addressed.
Okay, I got to bug you one more time. Sorry. This
Sure.
just starts making me think about all kinds of things that people can kind of goof and do. In fact, it makes me think of I really hate bagging on these guys, but like there's another phone company, or they make other stuff too, where their engineers uploaded a bunch of stuff and like proprietary stuff got out there. I'm tired of naming the company. I actually like the company, so I don't want to keep throwing them under the bus, but because it could have happened to any of us, right? Because these guys they probably should have known better, but you know what? It was new technology at that point. So I'm tired of throwing them under the bus. But this leads me to my actual question for you. Does DDR protect against that kind of scenario where maybe you're using Copilot or Gemini or one of the other AIs? And will it stop you from putting in that sensitive information like a social security or how I've encrypted the algorithm on my whatever my droid scenario is now? Does it do that? Can you catch that?
Yeah, so one of the things that we see more and more that companies are worried about data before, for example, the AI models, for example. Okay, this is one example. But any application that we now see enterprise actually building, it involves some form of potential sensitive information. And we see a lot of customers actually asking us to help them to mask and redact and making sure the data is protected before being fed into all those AI, GenAI kind of tools. If you think about customer support chatbot, before you train that chatbot, and one of the approaches to train that chatbot is to just feed it with millions of chats that happen with humans, right? With human customer reps. So by, for example, anonymizing or masking the sensitive information, you're making sure that you're not training your AI model with private information, and of course not with any malicious information. So this is one of the use cases of usages of Votiro technology and product.
Appreciate it. Thank you. I'll let you guys continue. I'll keep my questions to a minimum. Thank you.
No, please do. This is wonderful.
Great. Okay. All right, you guys heard it out there in the
comment.
audience. I heard game on, so I'm going to make a list.
Yeah. Thank you, Aviv. So far, you've seen how we're making the case that we've got to be able to introduce a unified approach to safeguarding data. And the unified approach looks at the data from both sides, one from the threat perspective and the other from a compliance perspective. And the underlying theme for both of them is how do you implement this solution within organizations, applying a zero trust principle and applying it in real time. So what I wanted to do today on the call here is to spend a few minutes highlighting key use cases that we've seen here and now. We've seen these use cases within mid-sized organizations. We've seen these use cases in very large organizations, but these are all use cases where the customers already have a lot of security in place. They have a lot of data security in place. They've got a lot of other technologies in place, but they are introducing data detection and response as a unified approach to address these specific scenarios that they have spotted as gaps to protecting the data as it's being used in the marketplace. So I'll use 4 examples, and you probably in the audience will start to, you can imagine many more use cases within your own organization as well. So let's take the first one on the top left, and it's a bank in a U.S. bank, a regional bank, where they've got about 12 billion in assets. They've got 1,500 users, and their trend was to move more and more of their data from their data center to Microsoft's cloud. It could be any other cloud. In this case, they chose to put that in Microsoft Cloud. And one of their biggest risk was, how do I ensure that now that the data is outside of my data center, it's going to be accessed by my users, my partners, and ensuring that the data is going to be constantly evolving and more data is going to be put into that cloud on a daily basis. And as part of that exercise, their view was, how do I ensure that the content is safe as well as compliant moving forward? And so in this case, they were able to adopt Votiro more like a water treatment plant at the edge of a lake, making sure that the content is always flowing into that lake safely and in a compliant manner. I'll take another example on the top right. We talked about a large telecommunications company in the US that had a Snowflake data breach. Well, here is an organization in Europe that rolled out a Snowflake data management platform a couple of years ago, maybe almost 3 years ago now. And the first project was they opened that environment using hundreds of APIs, feeding content into that Snowflake data management platform. And these APIs were coming from around the world, all sending information via that API in that payload, and Snowflake is ingesting content. So this is a scenario where organization was able to adopt data detection and response as an ability to, again, ensure that as a first line of defense, bringing content in, not trusting the content inherently, but cleansing the content and dropping it into Snowflake data management platform. And true story, earlier on, when the first week before they introduced data detection response, they were already starting to see weaponized files coming in through those APIs. So another scenario is a data management platform connected through APIs, where users are not involved, but being able to bring in content safely and in a compliant manner. The third scenario is in the bottom left, a very, very large government agency protecting data through their browsers, where their organizations are having to, users having to download content from the browser. Applying zero trust principles, ensuring that the content being downloaded from the internet is always safe before it lands on the endpoint. And in this case, they were able to adopt Votiro, integrating our capabilities with a remote browser isolation technology that they chose to implement in the marketplace. And last but not least, the bottom right is a bank. And this bank is interesting, where they adopted Microsoft's Office 365 as their email platform. So which means they were migrating from an on-prem email server to Office 365. And as part of that very large deployment, their biggest concern was now how to ensure that the organization is able to ensure that the users are always getting safe attachments and safe content in their email box. So I quickly highlighted 4 scenarios here, but there are many more that you in the audience can also think of as you look at the various touch points where users interact with content, where applications interact with content, where business services interact with content.
Let me ask you guys this. I think you kind of, as you preface this, the beginning of this slide, these are organizations that they're not hurting for security products. In fact, they some of them probably have what I like to call shelfware, right? They got stuff they're probably not even really using. Are there certain places, organizations, institutions that are more at risk, or is it more like a specific scenario or like their environment? Because I mean, I feel like you said, most of these have multi-million-dollar security systems, right? And it's got to be some pretty slick stuff that's going to keep out a lot of the stuff, right? So it can't necessarily be an industry per se, because we already know financial services and healthcare are just getting beaten. But is it more environmental? Because I don't want to hear that the lawyer answer from you. It depends, right? So is it environment? I'll shut up in a second. Is it environment or is it industry specific here? What do you see?
Yeah, so let me highlight, that's why I focused on the three trends, right? The trends are important. Organizations have a lot of security in place when the data is at rest. When the data is stored in a beautiful system, they've got encryption, they've got access control, access governance, they put a lot of security in place. And when it's on the endpoint, they probably have security for data loss prevention. But one of the trends that I highlighted early on the call was more and more data is moving to the cloud, which means the organization is losing control of that data. And once it's there, data is constantly growing every single day, every minute of every single day. And as it's growing, how do you safeguard the data in real time? So that's the trend where it doesn't matter what the industry is. It's that trend when people are moving data from on-prem to the cloud, putting a new Snowflake data management system, implementing GenAI and adopting OneDrive and SharePoint and using their own data to train their AI model. All of these are scenarios where they would benefit from data detection and response because it's a capability that's not introducing friction. It's a capability that's saying, I'm going to come in and take a unified look at threat and compliance and allow you to, in a safe manner, use that data.
I like it. So I have 2 points that I want to bring up. More just because I know we're gonna jump into the technical piece that I really want to see, because I love hearing the conceptual stuff, the use cases where we can help folks, but really where the rubber meets the road is where we can kind of see, what's happening, right? So as we see this, I kind of want to throw out a couple of other scenarios because I know we're talking generative AI specifically, but that's also being used for insider threat. And we're also seeing, third and fourth or even ninth party, challenges with stuff, So, and that's really where data is moving, right? Because if I'm going to throw my USB drive in and steal a bunch of company secrets and 86 out of the place, I'm hoping that, well, I hope you can't catch me, right? But I'm hoping that the organization has something that can catch that, right? So as we're looking at this, I kind of was hoping that maybe you guys could kind of paint a little picture around that as well, and kind of help our folks out in the audience there. So I will go back into cloaking, but I'm looking forward to your demonstration.
So let me jump in and highlight this again. This is part of the point that I was making earlier as well, right? Cybersecurity service providers have fallen into this trap of insider threat means it's a capability, it's a behavior-based capability on the endpoint. Well, a data detection response capability can be used to solve an insider threat solution too. I'll give you a great example. You saw Aviv describe the masking capability. So what if I'm a salesperson that I'm leaving the company, and so I choose to want to steal customer data? I can go to Salesforce, dump out an Excel file, upload it to my favorite Dropbox, and move on. If I have, as an organization, data loss prevention, if it catches it, it blocks it. But chances are data loss prevention doesn't see that traffic going to my favorite personal Dropbox. Let's take a look at data detection response. If I mask the data, I've rendered that data useless for that salesperson. And How did I catch it? I caught it because it's sitting on my browser, and the same browser that I'm using to upload the data. So Votiro is catching it at that point. So from my point is a lot of the use cases as practitioners, I'd love for the practitioners to take a data-centric approach to the solution architecture. Look at your architecture and saying, what problem am I trying to solve? If I'm trying to solve a problem of insider threat, if I'm trying to solve a problem of bad, malicious insider who is intent to steal the data, and look at all the touch points through which they are going to do that, and then take a solution approach. In some cases, data loss prevention is a great answer. In some cases, data security posture management is a great answer. The point I would submit to the audience is, as part of your architectures, to take a look at these use cases and put data at the heart of solving the problem.
Makes sense. I mean, everybody now is saying that data is really our new money or our new currency. It's gold. So, I mean, you really have to be thinking about it that way. So appreciate that. Thank you.
Indeed. So that now we'll turn it over to Aviv so that Aviv can show the data detection and response platform from Votiro in action.
Perfect. Thank you, Ravi. As we haven't mentioned that, but Votiro is a product cloud service. So I'm going to share my screen to show you how it looks like. Okay. You can see my screen, guys, right?
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah. So this is the main dashboard of Votiro. And one of the things that we understand that our customers, they need to have the visibility. Okay. So on top of the functionality, we actually showing what has been done by the platform. And actually, we can give a deeper threat analysis and more insights about what's happening in the organization, both for threat perspective and both for privacy and compliance, including legislations that maybe that data from that source, maybe that was violating this or that. So this is one important aspect that is part of that platform. The use case that I want to talk about today, and of course there are many as Ravi has outlined, is the use case where we have users that they're using OneDrive, right? The popular Microsoft collaboration platform. Now, one of the things that we keep hearing is that customers are saying, yes, I want those files to be stored, but I want those labels to be masked. I want that private information to be masked. So one of the things that we deliver as part of the DDR platform is the ability to mask that private information. And of course, you can customize the policy. Let's say in this case, we want to mask like email addresses, social security number. We want to mask PCI content like credit card number, CVV, and expiration, for example. And in some organizations, they want to also treat the PHI, which is the health information class of information. So this is one of the reasons that customers say, yes, I want to mask that for every file being uploaded to OneDrive. So in this case, I'm having here a OneDrive folder with two files. One is a resume. In that resume, we could find a social security number. We could find the full name, address, all the private information of that specific candidate. And on top of that, I have another file, which is the health insurance claim. And we all know that as part of the health insurance claim, I can have a social security number and other sensitive information. So as we in Votiro, we decided that we want to mask anything that's related to those labels. For that purpose of demonstration, we'll go to our OneDrive, Votiro OneDrive integration. And in this case, I want to scan by demand so we could actually see the result. And I will pick that folder, which is just show you, so it can be scanned. So what is happening behind the scenes is that all those files are being scanned, are being sanitized, and two things are happening here. One is that anything that is related to those artifacts around personal information, that including the address, is being masked, redacted. Anything that is related to the social security number is being redacted. On top of that, there was the one thing that was hidden inside that file, a zip file with a malicious code. Okay, that file is now can no longer be open, and it was redacted as well as part of the reconstruction process. Now, this is one aspect of making sure that the file is safe. For example, for that claim that I've showed you earlier, in that case, the social security number, the federal tax ID number, it was actually masked as well. So anything that might be in that file and is sensitive being masked. So we're doing that for forms, for images, and for any kind of document out there. So this is another aspect of how we could sanitize on one hand and making sure the file is threat-free, but also redact any private information, making sure that it's also PII and private information free. So this is from the user perspective. In fact, that was done on the spot within milliseconds, and the user hasn't noticed that we've done that. So at trust, it was safe. From the administrator perspective, okay, we can actually dive into that, what happened right now. So for that Word document, which I showed you, we could see that we found name, occupation, organization, location, phone number, and email address, okay? And on top of that, as I selected that, we decided to mask the phone number and email address. But that's not the only thing we've done. As I mentioned, we found that suspicious element here, the surprise.zip, which contained a surprise link, and on a Windows platform that will actually pop up a calculator. So this is another aspect. So at the same time, within 0.8 seconds, we could create a threat-free document and a PII-free document. And of course, that information, that in-depth information is available for the system administrator, for IT team, and whoever need to get more threat intelligence of what has just happened. Same goes obviously for the insurance claim. So we found that sensitive information and we masked that appropriately. So this is around that use case. Of course, as I mentioned, on top of that, we provide the information about the global organization, what we found, who are the top users who receive sensitive information, what are the channels that receive most sensitive information, and of course, that allows you to take action. For example, if you find that a lot of the users or a lot of the data is containing sensitive information coming through email, you may want to set up a Dropbox or a OneDrive or even a client-facing portal to handle sensitive information. So, because that's not always the right way to get that sensitive information by email. So you want to get a handle of exactly how it gets into the organization, where it's stored, and having the right audit for that. Same goes for threats. For example, one of the things that we know is we know how to detect password-protected documents, password-protected archives, and handle those accordingly. And of course, making sure that everything that in those password-protected documents are safe as well. And with that visibility, you can take action. So as I mentioned, we do have those granular policies. We do have that visibility and dashboard. And of course, we integrate not just with OneDrive, as I mentioned, but also with S3 buckets. We also integrate with Box, with, as I mentioned, with Microsoft emails, Microsoft Teams, OneDrive, SharePoint, and of course, tons of other integrations, including APIs. So anything that is not natively included in Votiro that can be easily be integrated with using an open API approach. So this is more or less what I wanted to demonstrate for you today in terms of the functionality, of course, and the security of Votiro platform. And of course, that platform is available as a cloud service that you can easily sign up like within 2 minutes and start plugging the file sources I mentioned. It takes like minutes to have integration with any of those sources, and start getting the data flowing and seeing the results, both from privacy and from threat perspective.
Great.
Excellent,
Thank you.
excellent. I love seeing the demos. I really do, because I actually like seeing the product in working. You know, it's just, to me, it just gives it a face to what we've been talking about for the last 45 minutes or so. So appreciate that, guys. Are there? Let's talk about some of the other threats that we haven't really covered today. How would can this affect or help in some way? And I'll let either of you guys answer this one. Let's talk about like ransomware or BEC attacks. BEC attacks, I kind of feel like maybe you might have something on that one. But what about ransomware? I mean, how is that going to either thwart or help mitigate that?
Yeah, so one of the principles of for bad guys for installing the ransomware is to make sure that the user can be lured to click on the attachment and actually execute some bad code. One of the things that is fundamental for Votiro's technology is that we reconstruct all the attachment, all the documents coming into the organization in a way that anything that might be related to an active code is just being rendered as useless, okay? So the ability for a bad guy to really inject a bad code to be executed, whether that will be through macro, through embedded executable, through a script, is getting extremely hard, because we find, detect, eliminate, and actually disarm any of those active codes, generating a safe documents. So in fact, you can have technologies that protect from what happened when that ransomware is eventually installed. But if you want to have a proactive approach, so that's where Votiro comes into play. So we provide all those disarm documents. So that's a I would say, defense against those ransomware kind of threats. Yeah.
Excellent. Ravi, anything to add?
Yeah, I'd like to add that as we started the call today, we wanted to highlight the approach of data detection and response is to unify threat and compliance into a single platform. And that's really what you saw when Aviv showcased the capability that Votiro has developed. This is an alternative approach to today's approaches that customers can take to implementing data protection. Taking a siloed approach to whether you're doing a data loss prevention on the endpoint, providing data security posture management to get visibility into where things are. But data detection and response is a more universal capability to be able to implement real-time security, real-time when the data is being used by the user, by the applications, and by the services.
Appreciate that. We are almost out of time with the guys, and I know most everybody is probably getting close to their lunch hours and things like that, so I want to be respectful of that. But as we start wrapping up, I was hoping that the guys could give us maybe some either homework for the audience, maybe a prediction or two, up to you guys, really, how you want to share that. But each of you, I'll give you 1 minute to kind of give us like I said, homework, predictions, or if nothing else, what should folks have taken away from our conversation today? Ravi, I've got you at the top of the slide for this one, so why don't you kick us off?
Great. So one of my key call to action for today's call is, first of all, thank you for attending the webinar. And we have a bunch of resources that we've attached as part of takeaways. So I really would love for practitioners, architects, security leaders that are on the call to be able to take a look at those resources, and specifically one around the a whiteboard exercise that we've done for organizations. It's the data security assessment. It's a capability that would take about 20 minutes for you to do on your own. You could do that. You could reach out to us, and we can engage in that same conversation with you as well.
Yeah, and that data security gap analysis, that's in the resources tab. You can just click on that, or as this thing wraps up and closes out, there should be a little button that appears for you guys. So if you want to take advantage of that, and I would recommend that you do. I mean, anytime you get a free use of a tool to see what's happening in your environment. I don't know why you wouldn't do that, but hey, that's just me. I host this stuff. So Aviv, take us home, man. What do you got? You got a prediction? You got some homework for us? What are you thinking?
So I think that at least my key message to the audience that is to take like a few minutes and ask themselves whether or where they can actually employ more proactive approach that enable the business, where they can take the existing controls and ask themselves whether there's some other approaches that can enable the business rather than stop the business. I think a lot of the security practitioners, they actually used to, deal with controls that block some stuff. And I think that it shouldn't be the case. I mean, we should be the guys that, the guys loves us, right? And not necessarily being the cops in the organizations. And I know that there are a lot of products and approaches out there. Of course, Votiro's DDR is one, but taking a few minutes and ask ourselves where we can actually enable the business and with the new approaches, not those reactive and restrictive security approaches. I think that's something that can be great both for your end users and for your boss.
I love that. It would be wonderful to stop having that connotation of the Department of No, and it's more like you see the security folks and you're like high-fiving them in the office, stuff like that. Good job, man! You totally kept us safe. That would be awesome if people really did that. So I love that idea. Other things that I picked up on was, obviously business enablement. That is really what the CISO's job is. I mean, yeah, it is keeping the business secure, but at the end of the day, their goal is to enable the business with everything that they want to be doing. So this is big. The other thing I picked up on was silos, and I see this every day in real life anyway, but we got to quit being siloed. We need to have more diversity. That's the problem with this is my opinion. I'm not speaking for Secureworld or Votiro on this one. We need to actually collaborate together in a diverse fashion with everyone. Everyone, even if you don't agree with people's opinions, we need to hear them. That's how the world is supposed to work, not with blinders on and I'm just working on my laptop. I'm angry. Collaboration makes people happy. I made that up, but it's probably true. Anyway, that's my takeaway. Quit being siloed and be happier. It's not hard. It's not hard. Anyway, that's my thoughts. We've got more remote sessions on the way, folks, always. Check the resource tab. I've loaded in there the coming soon, which has that menu option for about, I don't know, there's probably 8 or 12 that are coming. So I've got a lot of stuff coming up on the way. So check those out. We'll see you guys on those remote sessions. If you haven't done so already, in that resource tab, click on the certificate of attendance. You can download that now. 1 CPE credit. If you liked what you heard today, please share the link that you used to join with some colleagues. They're probably trying to get their arms around data in motion. And this is probably a pretty darn good start. And you got a free tool that you can try to use. Do it, please. Anyway, check those resources. That concludes today's remote session, Beyond Boundaries, Securing Data in the Era of GenAI with DDR. We had a couple cool guys on, Aviv and Ravi. Thank you for being here and letting me ask you questions as well as our audience. So thank you, guys. This concludes our time together. Be well, and we'll see everybody at the next remote session.